If you get anything from this video, it's that you should not be buying a condo in Florida in 2024 and 2025. I was talking to somebody recently and they were looking to buy their first place, their first time home buyer, and they're looking into buying a condo, and they weren't aware of what's going on in the condo market in Florida and how bad and how messy it's about to get. 6 months, I would say. So that's what we're going to talk about. But if you're looking to buy a house as an investment, as a personal residence, make sure it is not a condo 3 floors or higher. If it's a condo that's 2 floors or 1 floor, it's okay. But if it's a condo that's 3 floors or higher, it's not okay. So let's talk about why this is not a good idea. So as a preface, before I get into, the new regulations happening, I thought this was pretty interesting. I saw this as an article. This isn't my personal research or anything, but the active inventory of condos and townhouses with HOAs in Florida has risen 91% from June 2023 to June 2024. To put numbers to this, in June 2023, there was 32,322 units for sale. That's a lot, whatever. But in June 2024, there was 62,011 units for sale. It's just 2 months ago, probably even higher in August and September. And that's, condos and townhouses. So that's something really important to, recognize is why is there an increased amount of inventory? You have to know what an assessment is. When you own a condo, you pay HOAs. HOA fees cover, building maintenance and repairs and elevators and, the doorman, garbage fees, sometimes parking, all that stuff. There's HOA fees. Everybody knows HOA fees. Covers, lawn care, that's another one, pool maintenance, whatever. But there's another thing called assessments. And assessments are usually different from HOA fees. And assessments are fees that a owner pays on top of the HOA for unexpected repairs, such as like a roof or an elevator fixing or, foundation, like whatever, is needed. That's usually what an assessment is. A different assessment that's called a special assessment. And a special assessment, extra dues collected on top of normal assessments and HOA dues. And those are collected if the projections on income, on how much the association should be making, are inaccurate. They need more money, they need more funding, then they do a special assessment on top of the normal assessments and any HOA dues. Now, one common misconception with condos in general is people think owning a condo, you're prone to less expenses, less monthly expenses, quarterly, yearly expenses than a single family home. Where I think a single family home, your roof goes bad, your toilets go bad, you have to redo your kitchen, all these things, your plumbing. But that's actually completely inaccurate. And I used to think that too. I'm like, wow, owning a condo is convenient. HOA takes care of everything. But you're paying the HOA. And then when the HOA doesn't have the funds to do it, then you're paying the assessments. And you actually have less control because you don't know who the HOA is paying, unless you're on the board or something, but these HOA boards that's a whole nother thing. HOA boards, especially in South Florida and Florida in general, those are like their own like little countries, like they have so much control, and people get sued all the time with HOAs. I would never personally own a house in an HOA because of that. You don't have control over it, and you're still getting charged those big ticket items with the assessments. So the conception that because you're in a condo you don't have to pay all these fees, that's completely inaccurate. Now what Florida did, and this was really like an effect, I think it was building up, but it was an effect of Surfside incident that happened a couple of years ago, forcing all condos with 3 floors or more. So I mentioned 1 or 2 floors at the beginning, 3 floors or more. You have a full reserve funding. And then also they're required to do maintenance and inspections. This is really an issue for older buildings that don't have reserves, that were neglecting funding, that were neglecting maintenance. And this is really common in South Florida. This is all over. I would say South Florida is like the biggest area of Florida that's going to get hit by this. So what this means is, let's say you're buying a condo in 2024, right? You're buying a condo September November, October, just went out of order there, whatever. And this law is taking place in November. So you could buy a condo, you put 20% down on the condo, you run your numbers, you're able to afford the HOA dues, you're able to afford your monthly taxes, your monthly mortgage, your interest, your insurance, all that stuff. You afford that. Then you close a few months later, the law enacts and you're hit with a special assessment of tens of thousands of dollars to even hundreds of thousands of dollars that maybe you couldn't afford because you were budgeting for these other expenses. I saw somebody that their condo fees jumped from $1,500 to $3,000. That's insane. That's literally double. And I know me myself, like I'm renting this apartment. I own houses that are rentals, but if my rent just all of a sudden doubled, like maybe I could afford it, maybe I couldn't, it could be a lot. So that's a big expense for a lot of people. The people that are going to get hit the hardest with this are retired people that have fixed incomes, maybe living off of Social Security or living off of something else, that have a fixed income and they've been living in an older building, because now when the older building has to collect this special assessment and has a large expense and they have to pay that, what are they going to do with their fixed income? That's tough. So I saw this video that I wanted to just watch that kind of went over this whole situation and this guy. So this is a quick video, probably going to skim through it a little bit, but it's crazy. It was just, whatever, we'll get into it.
Some South Florida condo owners are being hit with six-figure assessments that are forcing them to flee.
The situation is leaving many unable to sell or afford the staggering cost. Local 10 News investigator Jeff Weinstein has the numbers.
Sleepless nights?
Sleepless nights? Every night. I don't know where we're going to live or how we're going to live.
Howard Konitz never thought he'd be in this situation at 79 years old.
We can't afford it. We can't afford it. We're going to go broke.
Konitz and his wife Sheila have lived in their 2-bedroom, 2-bath Williams Island condo for 10 years. The retired couple had their financial future all planned out.
Elevator modernization.
That was until they were recently hit with a special assessment. The total assessment for the apartment we're sitting in is what?
Approximately $224,000.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about with a special assessment. They're not going to pay this all at once. They have to pay it. But here's my thing on this article, right? This guy, just go back. Look at this apartment that this guy lives in. This is in Aventura, very close to where I live. Very expensive area. Bro, these are nice. So, I'm not going to blame this guy. He's just living his life, whatever. I don't know his full situation. But, bro, if you're living in an apartment like this, one, this is a very nice place. I'm assuming you have money to live here, probably ocean access as well. If you're living in a condo, you should know what's going on with your HOA. Is the reserves messy? Do they have reserves? Have you been hit with assessments recently? That's just something I think you should know as a condo homeowner. What's going on with where you live? A little bit irresponsible of him to gain pity and stuff. Whatever. I'm not going to blame anybody, but
elevator modernization, termite treatment, and 700,000 consultants to roofing.
So this part was interesting to see what everything is, right? So you can see roofing, landscaping, elevator modernization, termite treatment. These are things that you would expect would be needing to be done. So this shouldn't be something just completely caught off guard. You knew this was going to happen eventually, right? Somebody has to pay for this. It's going to be you own the building. That's my thing. That's my counter argument, right? I don't feel fully bad for these people.
Passed on to a potential buyer. Konitz has had his condo on the market and has dropped the price several times. He was turned down for a reverse mortgage by a lender due to strict condo rules.
Maybe I can give it away for pennies on the dollar.
He is not alone. This listing at the...
This is the point of the video, right? And it was do not buy a condo. And this is exactly why. You could see this one's not selling, and there's hundreds, thousands of more of these. Thousands of more of these. And every day there's more and more of these exact same listings that are going to get hit and destroyed with assessments. Now, that is a potential opportunity for somebody that is okay with that. But, that's not equity you're gaining by paying that, gaining equity. Whereas like a single family home, you fix the roof, you're gaining equity. With a condo, it's not as like direct, as a direct correlation.
Club in North Lake apps of the Champlain Towers in Surfside of older buildings.
Have you ever seen them?
No.
Court.
What is the assessment on the apartment that you have for sale?
Just about
Whoa.
$290,000. There needs to be assessments. The problem is they've done too much at one time. The boards have gotten so nervous about all this that now they're doing everything at once.
Because they have to do everything at once because nothing was done before that. Very negligence by the HOA boards and by these homeowners put it on a future buyer or get a future problem, and now they're paying for it. A lot of people are getting caught off guard, and this sucks for a lot of people, but just how it is. So as a potential buyer, you need to be aware of what's going on with these assessments, because imagine you buy this guy's condo, you're not aware of the special assessment, your realtor isn't aware of it, it's not disclosed, which it should be technically, but it's not disclosed. On top of these special assessments that are going to be due soon, there's a lot of other issues with owning condos in Florida. HOAs are notoriously high in Florida. Not counting special assessments, just normal HOAs are notoriously high. I never really understood why somebody would buy a condo. I looked at condos in like the downtown area, and like you're looking at HOAs minimum $800 up to $1,000, on the low end, right? And it's just like that's a second mortgage that you're paying in just HOA dues that isn't going to equity. It's not going to, mortgage pay down. It's not going to raise your home value. It's just going into like an invisible pot. One thing that I never really liked about owning condos was the large HOA fees. On top of that, there's a problem with insurance. Insurance in Florida is absolutely insane and like borderline a huge issue. Insurance providers are leaving Florida. It's not looking good in Florida. Taxes are expensive in Florida. And then there's also, like a low-key constant threat of a natural disaster in Florida. That's just always something that's like looming above. It's something that can happen at any time and nobody really has control over if it does or it doesn't. And like this guy said in the video, he's trying to get a reverse mortgage, but he couldn't qualify. I've seen a lot of issues with, and I've heard of a lot of issues with VA and FHA loans actually not lending on condos because of the increasing expenses, and some condos are even blacklisted from being lendable. So you can't even qualify for a loan for some of these associations. Imagine the owners trying to sell, like they're not going to be able to. And as an investor like myself, buying a condo is tough because harder to cash flow, right? You have this HOA cost that's usually pretty expensive that hits into your cash flow. HOAs are notoriously strict on short-term rentals and medium-term rentals. A lot of HOAs only allow one term lease per a year. You can only have one long-term rental essentially. So it's not like the easiest to cash flow as an investor. It's usually not the highest appreciation asset, where like a single family house can appreciate a little bit easier than a condo can. Not all condos are bad. There are a lot of condos with good HOAs that have their full reserve where this isn't going to be an issue. There's also a lot of condos that are only 2 stories high, and that's not going to be an issue. As a potential buyer of a condo, don't just blindly trust a realtor or blindly trust the seller. Definitely do not trust the seller. Seller wants to sell, right? But you have to do your research. You have to do your due diligence into this association. You want to find out the history of the assessments, see their reserves, see if they're going to get hit with an assessment after you buy this property. Because you buy the property, you think it's a good price, you're like, wow, this is a really good deal, you have a condo, and then boom, you're paying an extra $1,000, $2,000 a month that you didn't budget for, you didn't expect, and that's not going to raise your value, that's not going to raise your equity, that's not going to do anything for you. It just going there, just disappearing money, and now you're losing money. Now you made a really bad investment. You don't have to rush into home ownership, especially condo ownership. There's a huge potential in buying condos in like 2026 when these reserves are fulfilled and you can buy without the threat of a special assessment, because a special assessment takes place when there isn't reserves or there isn't enough money. But technically on paper, if the condos have all their money, have all their reserves, there shouldn't be any special assessments. So that's going to be a really good time to buy a condo when all these poor owners have to pay now, and then you can reap the rewards after that when they've already paid and the HOAs are caught up and HOAs are hopefully in good standing with better board. Don't trust sellers, don't trust realtors, do your own research, and in my opinion, do not buy a condo the next 2 years, because most likely if it is in Florida, if it's in South Florida and it's an older building, you're probably going to get hit with fees. I hope this video helps. It's just something that I think people need to be aware of. People are aware of, but hopefully this helps somebody out there. And, just be suspicious and look into buying single family homes instead. But yeah, thanks for watching.